Thanks for joining us on News Channel 3 live at 5:30. We continue with our weather coverage on this weather alert day. Heavy rain has been coming down in West Michigan for most of the afternoon, and storms could pick up within the next couple of hours. Chief Meteorologist Keith Thompson is in the Weather Alert Center with a look at the forecast. Keith?
Yeah, we're going to continue to see that threat for the showers and thunderstorms out there, as well as we're going to be looking at I think for a chance for thunderstorms that will be developing a little bit later on. We continue with our weather alert day here for the potential for damaging thunderstorms. Right now on radar, it's pretty quiet as we see one batch of thunderstorms moving over toward the northeast part of the state, the Thumb area around Saginaw and also the Flint area, but that's moving away from us. But as we stretch out the radar here, you see another line that is developing just to the south of Chicago right now, stretching back to Champaign. These are nasty storms, not only some severe thunderstorm warnings here, but also we're looking at some tornado warnings in this particular area. And of course, this will be in the zone where a tornado watch has just been issued. This does not cover our area, but we're keeping an eye on the storms because our forecast models indicate that we might get a taste of those here over the next few hours. In the meantime, the temperatures are starting to warm up. Sturgis right now at 50, Benton Harbor 50, still mid-40s in Kalamazoo and Battle Creek. We're going to get warmer this evening, still a chance for some storms. I'm going to take you hour by hour through that outlook. That's coming up. Princess.
Thanks, Keith. To stay up to date on many alerts, watches, or warnings, download our free weather app. You can scan the QR code on your screen to do that, or you can use the Apple App Store or Google Play Store. Tonight, health professionals are urging people to stay up to date with their measles vaccinations. It's because the first case of measles in more than 10 years was confirmed in Kent County. And that now brings us to two confirmed cases here in Michigan, with the other being in Oakland County. News Channel 3's Mackenzie Decker spoke to doctors today, and Mackenzie, they're expecting it to only get worse from here.
Yeah, that's right, Princess. Health professionals are saying that this specific case is a reminder of just how quickly measles could spread. Not only are they telling people to get vaccinated, they're also answering a long list of questions surrounding the disease. The first measles case confirmed in Kent County.
Measles is one of those illnesses that really concerns us as emergency physicians because it's incredibly contagious.
The infected adult recently returning home to the U.S. after traveling abroad, making stops between Michigan and New Jersey. The total number of confirmed cases in Michigan now standing at 2. But Dr. Todd Chassie, medical director of the Right Care Clinic, expects this is just the beginning.
And unfortunately, with the outbreak that we saw in Texas, I think with travel, only a matter of time before we saw the potential spread.
Chassie and I sat down going through a list of questions, starting with the basics. How is measles spread and how contagious is it? Chassie went on to say the disease lingers in the air and on surfaces for up to 2 hours after an infected person passes through an area. Chassie also touching on the list of symptoms to look out for, including a high fever, red, watery eyes, a cough, and runny nose.
It has a characteristic rash that often will start on the face and spread. So it can look like other viruses, especially early in the course.
We then moved our conversation into who is most vulnerable to the disease. Are people who may have had measles in the past, are they not susceptible to it anymore?
Great question. People who've had measles, have immunity against the measles.
Chassie says that means people born before 1957 are not at risk because they were likely already exposed. But he says if you were born after 1989, you're eligible for a booster, even if you were inoculated in school. In the end, Chassie says getting vaccinated is just as much about protecting yourself as others.
Vaccination, and vaccination, especially for protecting those who aren't able to receive vaccines for medical reasons. So I think that is the most important thing that individuals can do.
Now, this is just some of what we talked about today, but Dr. Chassie had a lot of great information on measles. It's why we're going to have the full interview posted on our YouTube page for those who are interested. Live in studio, Mackenzie Decker, News Channel 3.
4 police officers on the east side of the state are being called heroes this afternoon after helping rescue several people from a burning home. It happened yesterday morning in Farmington Hills in Oakland County. Officials say there were 8 people inside the home, ranging in age from infant to 32 years old. Some of the victims who were pulled outside were unconscious amid the black smoke of billowing throughout the house.
They realized there were people trapped inside of a residence that was burning, and with no care for their own safety, they went in and started searching.
Some of the victims involved in the fire are still getting hospital care. 4 adults were taken to the University of Michigan, 3 of whom remain in serious condition and are on ventilators. 2 children were transported to the hospital after being rescued, and all 4 officers were also taken to the hospital, where 3 are listed in serious but stable condition and are currently on ventilators. Police say if not for the officers' bravery, there would have been multiple fatalities. Attorney General Pam Bondi is directing federal prosecutors to seek the death penalty for Luigi Mangione. Mangione is accused of killing United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson outside a hotel in Midtown Manhattan on December 4th. One of the federal charges against Mangione makes him eligible for the death penalty. The National News Desk, Geoff Harris reports.
That charge is murder through the use of a firearm, which does make Mangione eligible for the death penalty if convicted. But his attorney calls the decision political, adding that it goes against the law and historical precedent.
Angelo Petrick, a legal expert, tells us today's announcement by the Attorney General was expected.
Everything they had sort of signaled so far had suggested they were going to pursue this.
But he says it is true this crime is not one that necessarily would be pursued, since there are over a dozen aggravating factors considered by a jury to decide whether or not to impose the death penalty.
In this case, from what we know about the facts so far, really only triggers one of those factors.
In her formal statement announcing the decision, Bondi referenced that one factor, substantial planning and premeditation, writing in part, Luigi Mangione's murder of Brian Thompson, an innocent man and father of 2 young children, was a premeditated, cold-blooded assassination.
She's sort of earmarking why they believe it's not only eligible for the death penalty, but appropriate to pursue the death penalty.
Christopher Slobogan, also a legal expert, tells us even if there is a conviction on capital murder charges, there is also a sentencing hearing, and it may be difficult for the government to establish that one aggravating factor.
Criminal record, or killing more than one person, or killing for money. And it's not clear that any of those types of aggravating circumstances existed in this case.
Which is why he believes this is not a slam dunk case.
There is a possibility that a jury will not find the death penalty is warranted here.
Now, the federal judge in this case did appoint a death penalty expert to the defense back in February. Mangione pled not guilty to state charges, but has not yet entered a plea to federal charges. He is due back in court on April 18th. I'm Jeff Harris reporting from Washington.
European officials believe they have an ace up their sleeve regarding how to handle a possible trade war between the EU and the U.S. It involves a tool designed to batter U.S. big tech firms. Now, 2 years ago, the EU hashed out an agreement on an anti-coercion instrument allowing officials to take countermeasures targeting a non-EU country. One big measure is suspending intellectual property rights and doing the same for license fees on software and streaming services. It's not clear if the EU will wield that power and what type of response it would trigger from President Trump. A new report says Tesla sales are slowing down. It also says a Chinese electric car maker sales went up 60% this year. They're called BYD. They say they've sold more than 1 million cars this year. It sold more than 1 million vehicles in the first 3 months of 2025 alone. They say their electric car sales are up 40%. BYD made about $107 billion last year. Tesla made about $97 billion. President Trump says he'll hold a meeting today about possible investors who might buy TikTok. They're still owned by their Chinese parent company. They have to sell TikTok by Saturday or could be banned again in the U.S. The Associated Press says a software company called Oracle might buy it. President Trump says he wants TikTok to stay active in the U.S. Another reason not to trust everything you read or see online, the IRS is warning taxpayers about bad tax return advice on TikTok and other platforms. Josh Sidorowitz tells us how some Americans may be following false claims, missing out on legitimate deductions.
Scroll through social media and you will find all kinds of tips to file your taxes. Some claim tapping into obscure credits can even net you bigger refunds, from writing off your car or even your pet to hiring your own kids. But tax professionals caution, following some of it could lead to fines and delays getting any refund you're actually owed.
There's just enough truth to be dangerous.
There's usually some credibility in the claim, the credit, the deduction. It does exist, but not the way they phrase it, and certainly not with the way they're intending it.
The problem prevalent enough now, the IRS says it is stepping up reviews of returns that claim these other withholdings, saying instead of looking to ill-informed information on social media, speak to a trusted tax professional. More than 700,000 taxpayers at the end of last year were still waiting on their refunds that were frozen for review by the IRS after claiming credits they potentially weren't eligible for. The National Taxpayer Advocate's annual report to Congress in January partly blaming misinformation on social media. Jackson Hewitt Chief Tax Officer Mark Stieber says the biggest mistake people make is not claiming credits they do actually qualify for, like the earned income and the child tax credit.
Here's the thing that people don't really fully appreciate. If you leave off an income item, if you leave off your crypto, the IRS is generally looking for that and you might get a question. But if you leave off the earned income credit, which about 1 out of 5 do every year, or you leave off a deduction related to your self-employment, the IRS doesn't say, oh, wait a minute, they don't add back deductions. They don't add back credits. You don't get a bigger refund from the IRS. You leave it off, it stays off.
And a lot of people are leaving a lot of money on the table. The IRS said in just 1 year, eligible taxpayers left more than $7 billion unclaimed, and that was just for the earned income tax credit. This year's filing deadline is April 15th. I'm Josh Sidorowicz, CBS News, Philadelphia.
The Supreme Court heard arguments today regarding Planned Parenthood and its funding, what court justices are now going to decide. And some Republicans and Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s agency are reportedly at odds, what they're saying tonight as measles cases grow nationwide.
And right now, we're talking about storms, but coming in right behind them, we say hello, sunshine yet again. I'm breaking down the evening storm threat, talking about what's on the way behind them. That's coming up.